Welcome back to the second part of a three-part series and talking about the idea of free will. Tonight we're going to be discussing the dynamics of free will. Last time we said that the purpose of the world is accomplished through our free will. The end of the book of Deuteronomy, towards the end, has a very interesting verse. It says, "See, I've set before you today goodness, the life and the goodness, death and evil. Now choose life so that your children may live." Choose life so your children may live. The Rambam, the famed medieval sage Maimonides, says as follows. It says, "Don't be like the fools who think that God determines whether a person will be righteous or evil. Permission is granted to every individual." So the idea of predestination that the Rambam is warning against is not something that came with the Protestant Reformation, John Calvin, Calvinism. It's something that's existed for many, many years. This was written in the 12th century, and it's something that had been dealt with for a long time already by then. So the idea of predeterminism, that everything is as it is, we're just kind of like puppets going through a play, this grand movie that's taking place over time, is not in sync with Judaism. The Rambam says, don't be fooled. Don't be like these people who think that good and evil in a person is predetermined. Human being, like we said last class, is unique amongst everything in creation, that he or she has the ability to choose between good and evil. We have an animal or natural soul, our drive toward the physical, a drive towards the natural, a drive towards selfishness. And then we have a godly soul, which is altruistic, which desires good, which wants to do the right thing. These are two desires that we have going inside of us at all time. Real choice that a human being has is really only in the realm of morality, choosing to do what's right and wrong in the sense of right and wrong in a moral way. When a person chooses, for example, what they want for dessert tonight, you choose, I want vanilla ice cream as opposed to chocolate ice cream. That's not really a choice. That's your nature. Whatever you happen to like, that's what you're choosing. It's not a real choice. But you choosing, I want to wear a blue shirt today instead of a red shirt today, again, that's not really a choice. That's just, you have a certain tendency towards certain things. You like things better than other things. But that's not where the real essence of free choice as it applies to a human being is found. Even an animal can choose where it wants to eat and where it wants to sleep. That's not real choice. The sages actually discuss whether an animal has free will or not, whether an animal has inclinations to do the right thing or the wrong thing. And the conclusion is, by far, that an animal does not have this ability. They thought maybe because the animals can rebel or be disobedient, that would somehow imply that they have two competing forces inside of them. It doesn't. An animal goes strictly by its nature. An animal is confined strictly to its nature. When an animal does something, we don't look at it as a bad animal. When a lion eats a lamb, the lion is not a murderer, and the lamb is not a martyr. They're simply acting upon their actions. They're simply going as nature dictated, as cause and effect, as the nature of how they were built to operate are operating. They're not bad. When we live in Florida, so every once in a while you hear in the Everglades or whatever, there's an alligator attack. Somebody gets bitten or whatever. So do we look at the alligator like, I can't believe the alligator would do such a thing? We don't expect that the alligator is going to call upon its nobler, sense of altruism and spare the victim that it bit. Because that's not what alligators do. Alligators are confined to their nature. Alligators can't choose, well, you know what? This guy doesn't deserve to be bitten today. An alligator is confined to its nature. When an animal is hungry, it eats. A human being doesn't have to be like that. A human being can say, today I want to fast. Even though I'm hungry, but today's Yom Kippur. Today's a fast day. Even though I'm hungry and my nature says, eat, 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 I can say no. Or, on a general day, my nature says, I love lobster, I love cheeseburgers. A human being could say, no. Because we can transcend our nature. We have free choice. Mankind, humanity, is the only creature that exists that can resist a bodily urge and deny itself gratification of a desire that it considers inappropriate. If a human being deems something inappropriate at this time, you can deny it. Your nature might pull you and say yes, but if you say this is not what's right, I don't want to be involved with this right now, you have the power to do it. An animal and everything else in creation does not have this ability. So everything else in creation is under the dominion of cause and effect. This is because, everything in creation is under the dominion of cause and effect. The only thing not under the dominion of cause and effect is the human soul. And why is it that the soul, if everything else in creation is subject to cause and effect, to its nature, why is it that the human soul is different? That the human soul can do something free, something beyond what cause and effect would dictate? It's because the human soul is not really part of creation. It's a piece of the Creator. We have the ability to be like the Creator. For example, oftentimes, and this is an extreme example, we've talked many times that throughout the centuries, there have been many Jews who were not raised in a religious home, who did not act in their day-to-day living as a religious Jew should act. They would be a thief or other things that Jews aren't supposed to be doing. But when a time came and they were approached by an outside force that said, kiss this idol or kiss this bullet, how many Jews who had no Jewish background, who followed nothing of Judaism, laid down their life and said, I will not stand for this? Is that cause and effect? Is that the natural state of what you would expect to happen? No. We as Jews have the ability to transcend our nature. So being that, free choice, true free choice, is something that's connected specifically with the soul. A person who's not so in touch with their soul confines themselves to nature. If a person is not in touch with their soul, you're choosing to forego your free choice, for the time being anyway, and expose yourself to just nature and going by what my nature, my human nature, tells me that I should be doing. But we're not able to transcend our nature when we are not in touch with our soul. Because, again, the idea of free choice only comes from the soul. So what truly is the extent of our free will? Everybody knows, or everybody has at least a basic knowledge of biology. There are certain things that are part of our biological makeup. It's the way I was born. DNA is a fixed package. You know? I can't control my eye color or hair color or a lot of things about me. You know, there's a very famous question. Can a person choose their emotional temperaments or their sexual orientation? So we're not going to answer that. But the role of genes in our disposition is still very much a hot topic and debate. However, there are certain conclusions that are absolute, that we can say for sure. Genes present tendency, they don't dictate our actions. It's a tendency. We can choose our action even if we have a tendency that that is a very strong tendency towards something. The Talmud, the Gemara in Shabbos, says that a person born under the astrological influence of Mars will have a drive towards bloodshed. So you think, oh my gosh, how can, that's horrible. Well, a drive towards bloodshed, that is a tendency, but you can choose to be a surgeon or a shochet, a ritual slaughterer, with that drive for blood. You could also choose to be a murderer. That's where the free choice comes in. The tendency is there, and that's part of who you are, and you're not going to change that. It's a part of our nature. Each person is born with different character traits. However, what we do with them, what we zero them in on, whether we choose to use them for good or use them for things that aren't good, that's up to us. That's our free choice. It says that free will is limited to only good and evil, choosing between right and wrong. The wording of the Talmud, the Gemara in Brachos says, Kol b'yidei shamayim chutz miyirah shamayim. Everything is in the hands of heaven except for fear of heaven. Everything about us is predetermined. Who we're going to marry, what kind of life we're going to have. The Gemara in another place backs up the same thing. It says that before a person comes to the world, before the soul joins the body and is born to this world, it's decided, all these different things are decreed on it, whether it's going to be intelligent or not intelligent, whether it's going to be tall or short, rich or poor. However, good or evil is not listed among them. Everything else about us, we have the tendencies, we have the traits, they're built in. But good or evil, that is for us to decide. Many people think, or might think, that if a person is a very righteous individual, tzaddikim, a holy person, they might lose their free choice because there's no choice over there between doing the right or the wrong thing. You think many of our righteous sages through the generations had the same desires that we have? Maybe some. But there are others who, certain things are so beneath them. So once something is beneath you, do you lose your free choice in it? Once something is not part of your, like, I didn't murder somebody today. I really have no desire to. I probably never will. Most of the people in this room never will have the desire to do that. That's a subject of right and wrong. Does that mean that we've lost our free choice, that we don't have free choice when it comes to murder because that's just part of who we are? So certain things that are part of right and wrong, that are part of free choice, are a consequence of our upbringing, our education, or they're based on past decisions that we've made. For example, if a person grew up keeping Shabbos, grew up keeping the Sabbath, when I come to Friday night, it's not a question, am I going to keep Shabbos? Am I going to turn the light on? Am I not going to turn the light on? Am I going to turn the TV on? Am I not going to turn the TV on? No, it's just, it becomes part of your nature. There's no choice anymore. I don't decide actively or consciously, come Friday night, am I going to watch this show or am I not going to? It's Shabbos. There's no fight anymore. A person who grew up putting tefillin on every day. Doesn't mean, it's not a question. A person grows, they're going to put tefillin on every day. So have they lost free choice in all of those things? So on the one hand, on a superficial way, you can say maybe they have lost free choice a little bit because it became part of their nature. But on a deeper level, free choice still exists even in those mitzvahs, even if a person is gung-ho and does them every single day and does them every single time they're presented with it. The person might keep Shabbos, but it still might be a challenge to them every aspect of Shabbos. Not talking about weekday things. You're not allowed to even talk about weekday things. I know a lot of people who keep Shabbos who talk a lot about weekday things on Shabbos. So there's still a challenge over there. When it comes to those things, they're more refined. It's not the general concept of keeping Shabbos. It's a more refined or limited aspect of Shabbos. But within that aspect, you still have free choice within that mitzvah. Many people put on tefillin every single day. Many people pray every single day. So fine, that part is not a free choice. That is not an active decision that I have to make on a daily basis. But am I going to pray with intent today? Am I going to actually try That might be something that a person's still struggling with. So even in the things, even in the general things of mitzvahs, of good, of things, choosing to do the right thing and the wrong thing, even when something's become part of a person's being, it's become part of the way that the person functions, you still have free will in those things. The Lev David says that someone once asked the Rambam, Maimonides, we're talking one of the greatest sages of all times, why he says the vidui, the confessions, every day as part of our services, we say confessional prayers. Every Yom Kippur, we say confessional prayers. All these horrible things that we've done, that we've thought and said throughout the year. So he writes that somebody once asked the Rambam, how could you even say this? You didn't do any of these things. What, are you just like lying or fooling? Whatever. So the Rambam looks back at him and says, yes, I have violated all of them. I haven't violated them in the literal way, in the general sense of, but in some small, refined way, each of these things I can find an aspect in my life that it's still a choice whether to do it or not do it. So on some level, everyone is subject to conflicting impulses and can exercise free will in everything. As a result of any good decision that we make, when a person chooses to do the right thing, the person raises their moral level. Those areas formerly on the battleground between positive and negative inclinations are incorporated in the positive. They're not a challenge for the person anymore. When it says that mitzvah gereris mitzvah, that a mitzvah breeds more mitzvahs, that a mitzvah breeds goodness, because once a person gets in the habit of choosing to do the right thing, it just becomes a part of their being. They incorporate more positive energy to themselves. So we're still left with a quandary though. If I have free choice in an aspect of my life of choosing to do right or wrong, and God knows the future, God knows tomorrow whether I'm going to choose to do right or wrong, do I really have free choice? Find out next time.